Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of What If Deku Embodied the Sin of Pride? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. Izuku the Sin of Pride. Izuku's POV. Not everyone is born equally, that's what I've learned at the age of 4, in the world where there are Quirk's powers that manifested in people and about 80% of the population have them while 20% are considered having no abilities. They are called Quirkless. People who don't have Quirks are labeled as weak, defenseless, and so on, and I'm part of the 20%. Ever since I was young I've dreamed of becoming a hero, a title for those who want to make a change in the world, but it can never happen. After what happened in school, being called out because I was considered of applying to UA, one of the best schools in Japan, that I was making fun at because of my lack of quirk. I hated it. I hate being called weak, and what's worse, my former childhood friend, now my bully, decided to try to convince me to kill myself. Those words almost made me act, but I didn't. Besides, I was scared of being blamed of something I couldn't control. But it gets worse. After being saved from a slime villain by my #1 hero of all time, All Might, grabbing his leg when he was about to go, I needed to know, so I asked him if it was possible for me to become a hero even if I don't have a quirk. His response was no. He didn't sugarcoat it at all and told me that I shouldn't strive for a dream that's impossible for me, and telling me to become a cop, firefighter, or doctor, and with that he left me on the roof of the building while I was crying out, tears from my eyes. I only felt disgusted towards the person who I thought would be there no matter what, but I guess I was wrong. I decided to go home feeling nothing but anger that it filled my chest with this heat. When I walked I somehow found myself where I saw a crowd and there was smoke. I just sighed hearing the people talking about someone being trapped by a villain. This got me on high alert. When I got in close I was shocked to see my bully being trapped in the same slime villain that my former idol captured. But it didn't matter to me. But when I saw Bakuga's face filled with fear, my body moved on its own. The so-called heroes tried to stop me, but it felt like I wasn't hearing anything, only my heartbeat ringing through my ears and this feeling of pure strength that I was unknown to me. Once I got in close I grabbed my bag and threw it at the villain's weak spot, the eyes, making the villain pause his attacks and making Bakugu catch some air. This gave me time to plunge my arms towards Bakuga's clothing. Bakugu, what the hell are you doing, you dumb nerd? I didn't hear, or in fact I didn't want to hear him to begin with. With one more pull I got him out of the sludge villain and put a distance to avoid any more problems. The same feeling I felt suddenly disappeared and I felt nothing but fear when the sludge came after both me and Kachin, but the villain didn't get the chance since All Might intervened and then punched him, causing pressured wind to form and caused rain to fall. The civilians cheered for him, but when they looked at me, even the pros, they saw nothing but disgust at my direction. The heroes telling me I shouldn't have gotten involved made me sick, while the others showed Bakuga respect because of his quirk. This quirk, that what's so special about having a power that will just warp your mind into thinking you're going to be the best and take advantage of others. I was done with this once I got up after hearing these sorry excuse of a hero lecture. I left walking to go home, that is until I was called. Bakugu. Oi Deku, I didn't ask for your help, you were nothing but a nuisance and couldn't even let the heroes do their job, you quirkless freak. With that he left with me, showing nothing but hate to the one who I once called a friend. I was then interrupted by my former idol who decided to try and talk me out of becoming a hero. My fist tightened, but I just turned and left, making him question my attitude, but when I looked at him he paled at my expression. I was then interrupted by my former idol who decided to try and talk me out of becoming a hero. My fist tightened, but I just turned and left, making him question my attitude, but when I looked at him he paled at my expression. Izuku, I want nothing to do with you, hypocrite. With that I left him there and going home. It didn't take long for me to reach my destination, and hearing how my mom was so worried about me, and I reassured her I'm okay. After everything that's happened I'm now in bed clenching my chest and somehow feeling that same heat when I laid my body, and before I went to bed I saw a figure with a weapon in his hand and flames dancing around him, and the only thing he said was this: show some pride. Izuku's POV. The feeling of heat enveloping around me made me feel at peace, like nothing can get me in a bad mood, that is until my alarm clock went off and I groaned while opening my eyes. I felt energized somehow. When I got out of bed and head to the bathroom I looked at myself and I was shocked to see that I grew from my 5 feet 5 inches height to an incredible 6 feet 1 inch. Not only that, but my body was well defined. When I got out of bed and head to the bathroom, I looked at myself and I was shocked to see that I grew from my 5 feet 5 inches height to an incredible 6 feet 1 inch. Not only that, but my body was well defined. This image does not follow our content guidelines. To continue publishing, please remove it or upload a different image. Now that I thought about it, that dream I had me being sin of pride was confusing him. But I just shrugged it off for now and got ready to go for a walk since I don't have any school now. When Mom saw me, she was surprised and questioned me how I grew tall. The only thing I could say was I got a growth spurt. She bought the lie, and with that I told her I would be going for a jog. It only took me a while to jog to the location I wanted to go, and that was the Dagoba beach. This place was infested with illegal dumping for years now. It's simply sad that it has reached to this state for so long. This image does not follow our content guidelines. To continue publishing, please remove it or upload a different image. This place was infested with illegal dumping for years now. It's simply sad that it has reached to this state for so long. I thought about it and decided to try and help out the community. I still hate some pros how they do their job, but I'll let it slide for now at least. Nobody's POV. With that, Izuku started to train his body by cleaning the beach. He knew that he was behind because of him being quirkless, but he didn't care. He just felt nothing but pride that he was quirkless, and he will show the people who doubted him for something he couldn't control. During the months of bulking up his body, he also added in ways to increase his agility, flexibility, speed, strength, and also learning strategies, and thanks to his notebooks that helped a lot. He even asked his mom to help him on what he wanted to eat to nutrition himself and help him out. She smiled and helped as much as she can. While at school, his classmates and even his teachers were surprised to see him look different. Can you blame them? He was short before and now he looked calm as ever with his height. At the time when Bakugo saw this, he thought of threatening and trying to make him feel he doesn't belong here and should just quit being alive, but this didn't faze Izuku not one bit. This made Bakugo sad, but he stopped when Izuku said this to him while towering over him. Izuku, pardon me. I feel sick when I'm looked down at by someone smaller than me. Bakugo couldn't say anything when he looked at Izu on the eyes. All he can see was a beast that was calm and collected and waiting to strike. But when teacher came in, the tension simmered and Izuku was at his seat. After that, almost all the students never messed with Izuku because if he gave you one look you'd feel like you're really close to the scrothing sun. Izuku's POV. 10 months has finally passed and I've finally finished cleaning the beach, bringing it to its rightful glory. During my training, it was around 2 months ago when I wasn't the only one here at the moment. A girl with pink dreadlock-like hair and having an energetic personality greeted me and taking about her invention and her dream to me. She had a lot of pride for aiming big, and then we started to hang out with me, continuing training with her using the electronic equipments that were still usable for her. It's finally time. Thanks to my training, my muscles increased more, and not only that, but somehow I've gained a tattoo on my back, and this made my mother question why I suddenly have one, making her worry that I'm in some kind of gang. But I reassured her that I'm not saying I take pride into not making a fool of myself, and to just make her proud. Now I'm at UA, the prestigious school that's trained students into becoming pros. I feel nothing toward this, to be honest, and simply started walking. Other students saw me and were a bit scared because of my physique, while I ignored it all and continued on my way inside. But before can do that, with quick reaction, I stopped a girl from almost hitting her face on the pavement. Izuku, it's a bad omen to fall on your face. She just looked at me with a blush and simply thanked me and went on her way, making me question myself if I did something wrong. But then when I heard the voice of someone who I know, simply turned and let this person succumb into my chest. Izuku, it's nice to see you, May, but we should get going. The only thing she did was saying she wanted to continue hugging me, which made me laugh, so with my strength I simply lifted her up and placed her on one of my shoulders and continued walking inside. Nobody's POV. Explanation has been skipped for obvious reasons. After doing the theory part of the exam and with present Mike explaining the practical aspect of the exam and with which gate I'm in, which is gate A, I was just stretching, wearing armless t-shirt along with a track breathes and training shoes. The examinees looked at me, seeing my muscles and with me having a serious look on my face. But I ignored them because I saw the same girl who I helped before and wanted to reassure her, but I was stopped by someone. That girl over there, are you trying to ruin her chance of getting into this institution? If that's the case, I believe you should leave this instant. I turned to look and see it the same young man who cut off present Mike from explaining the practical side of the exam and even ridiculing me for being a distraction. I simply faced him and glared, causing him to sweat seeing the height difference between us. Izuku, you suggested that I leave this exam. Who decided that? Do you think you have any authority here? The answer no. Who are you to decide someone's fate while you're just someone who I barely know? Watch what you say when it comes to me and anyone else with your arrogance. Weakling. I turned away with the glasses fellow succumbing to heat and feeling his legs almost give out. I continued walking until I was behind, grabbing her around her waist, making her yelp in surprise until I turned her around to look at my face. Oh, it's you. Izuku, you're nervous, which is understandable, but you need to have pride in yourself and take calming breaths to ease that nervousness. I put her down and patted her head, making her blush, but she did take calming breaths to help her, which made me smirk a bit. Before she can say anything, the sound of the gates opened and I didn't waste any time to go through. With the other examinees questioning why I went and thought I would fail well. Present Mike, what are you all waiting for? There's no countdown in a real battle. Follow that kid. With that, the other examinees started to panic and race off to get as much points as they can. Back to me, I simply just sighed in boredom. Izuku, this is nothing but disappointment. I said this cause it was true and destroyed most of the pointers ranging from 1 to 3 points, and I haven't even used my full power on them, just simply using my physical strength, and they were nothing but scrap metal. Izuku, sigh, the sun is up and my power is getting stronger. My points for this part of the exam is about 69 points. That's enough for me. I'll just wait and look at the other examinees in case if they need help, if they get in trouble. With that, I jumped and landed on a building and looking around. Meanwhile, we see inside a building figures looking at monitors of all the examinees. This batch of individuals are indeed interesting. Nobody's POV. In the control room, we see the teachers of UA and also the principal observing the examinees. Principal, it seems we have quite a good bunch this year, but let's see if they handle this. When the principal pushed the very big red button, all hell will break loose on those poor souls. During that, All Might in his small form was looking at one examinee, specifically Izuku. He was shocked to find him there, but what really shocked him was because of what he did to the robots, the power he showed, and his change of attitude plus the way he looked. All Might, I thought he didn't have a quirk. Did he somehow lie to me? If not, then it can't be. If he's involved, then I need to know. Meanwhile, we see Izuku finishing up a 3-pointer. Izuku, well, that's about 167 points, so that's good. This is just too easy. How unfortunate. Suddenly the ground started to shake, and what happened was a giant robot destroying buildings in its way. Izuku, so that's the 0-pointer. Overkill much. Izuku saw most of the examinees running away from it, making him shakes his head at that. The reason why he didn't follow was because he had to make sure if anyone else is still there. Help please someone. And he got his answer. In a running position, his veins started to bulge up in his legs, giving a boost of speed plus feeling the heat inside his body even more. It didn't take long for him to get there in time, and seeing the girl he met, he removed the rubble from her leg and picked her bridal style, making sure to distance themselves from the bot. Once Izuku put her down, he looked at the bot, and he had a small smile on his face while looking up at the sun. Izuku, I believe it's time. The girl wanted to know what he was talking about, but she didn't get an answer. Instead, she saw her savior running towards the robot. She, along with the other examinees, including the teachers, who are seeing Izuku about to something out of this world. Izuku was pushing his limits beyond, feeling the hair coursing through his very being, brought a full-on smile on his face, and laughed. Once he got close enough, he crouched, resulting in the ground causing a large crater where he used to be, and making a leap towards the robot's head, using his right arm, making it pulse and showing his smile. Izuku, without saying anything, tightened his fist, causing a bit of heat to form. Aiming his fist point blank to the robot's head, causing it push back, resulting in sparks of explosions. This made everyone shocked to see such strength. Izuku then looked down below, seeing the examinees' expression, but he didn't care about them. All he cared about was the one person he was interested. Izuku started to go down really fast, but just as he was about to land, he was somehow slapped in the face and seemed to hover on the ground. When he saw the person who did that, it was the gravity girl who helped until she returned back his gravity. He dropped on the ground while landing on his feet. Izuku looked at the girl with curiosity, but it didn't show in his face. Izuku, I thank you for the save, are you alright? But the only thing he got was her puking out what appeared to be rainbows. Izuku then looked at his hand, still feeling the heat. After that, the exam was over, with Izuku leaving with a serious look on his face, making some of the kids scared. Hey, wait up. Izuku for some reason stopped just in time to turn around and see a short person in front of him. Izuku, it's you, the one I saved. Yep, thanks again for saving me. My name's is Ochako Uraraka, and nice to meet you again, hehe. She laughed a bit awkwardly since she had to look up at Izuku to see his face, and all Izuku did was chuckle a bit. Izuku, well then, my name is Izuku Midoriya. It's a pleasure to meet you again, Ochako Uraraka. She blushed and just nodded and told Izuku that she hoped he passed so they can see each other again. With that, she left, leaving Izuku there by himself. Izuku, what a strange but cute girl. Now where is that mechanical junkie-like girl? And when he spoke, he found someone on his shoulders, making him sigh. Izuku, it's nice that you find my shoulders comfortable. May, how did you do for your exam? May, I know for a fact I passed that exam with my amazing babies. Hey Izuku, I got idea on how to make you an amazing costume for you. Izuku, really now? But you need to hear my idea on a weapon of my choice, dreadlocks. May, hey, I thought we said not to call each other any nicknames until we start high school. She said this while pouting, and all Izuku did was laugh while walking out of the school gates. Nobody's POV. We now see Izuku doing jogs on the beach while wearing no shirt, just a pair of track breeds, enjoying the sun hitting his skin. It's been a few days since the exam, so in the meantime he's been working out while making an effort to hang out with May while helping her with her inventions, and also making it easier for his mom since she somehow owned a small business working at cafe, and since then Izuku helped his mom by being the waiter, and things were getting busy with him being the center of attention to the female audience, who only wanted to see him in uniform while also enjoying the food he serves to them. Right now he's doing one-hand push-ups, reaching all the way to 1,000 in just a few minutes, and doing the next push-up with his other hand. After that, he checked the time, and seeing that he has enough time to take a little walk. He grabbed his shirt while wearing a pair of glasses. For some reason, wearing glasses kinda keeps him from being too prideful. He didn't think too much of it and walked away from the beach. Right now Izuku was seen looking at himself in the mirror, checking his glasses. Izuku, I don't know why, but for some reason I'm more calm than ever. He then took off his shirt, revealing his upper body and also the mark of the lion on his back. Izuku, whatever power I have, that this mark is connected, and that voice, that I haven't heard the voice for so long. Who was he? Just then Izuku heard his door being knocked, making him see his mom opening the door. Inko, Izuku, it came, your letter came. Once Izuku saw his letter, he grabbed it from his mother's hand, and his mom let him have his moment to being alone in his room, but she was pacing in front of his door. With Izuku, he looked at his letter, and seeing the insignia of UA, he sighed. Izuku, well, let's get this over with. Once Izuku opened his envelope, along came his letter and also something else that landed on his computer desk. And then a hologram showed, revealing Samion, that almost made Izuku removed his glasses. All might. Well, I am here as a hologram, young Midoriya. I am pleased to announce that you've gained 167 villain points, making you the representative of the first-year students. But wait, there's more. Not only have you obtained villain points, but also hero points by saving one of the examinees, giving you 60 hero points, totaling up your points to 227 points, making you the only examinee to amp up so many points that passed me, and also the number 2 hero. Congrats, young Midoriya, and we crush. But the device was destroyed by Izuku, who took off his glasses with his height increased by a bit and having a bit flame facing in his eyes and having smirk on his face, but it was filled with anger. But the device was destroyed by Izuku, who took off his glasses with his height increased by a bit and having a bit flame facing in his eyes and having smirk on his face, but it was filled with anger. Izuku, I show no sympathy, nor do I share any pride towards a pitiful fool who won't amount to anything. Izuku then put on back his glasses, calming down, and went towards his door and opened it to see his mother, and all he can do is smile, bringing his mother into tears and giving him a hug, and all Izuku could do was laugh. After that, we see him outside near the salted water of the beach, looking at the stars and moon shining in the night sky. I should have known you'd be here. Izuku can just laugh and turn to see May wearing. Izuku, well, this place was what led me to meeting you, dreads. Izuku, well, this place was what led me to meeting you, dreads. She just pouted until she chuckled and walking towards Izuku and getting close to him and grabbing his hand. May, It's been about months since I saw you cleaned up this place. I thought you were taking away the parts one was using for my babies. Izuku, and then you tried to attack me with one of your spare wrenches. It kind of hurt a little if I'm being honest. May, I said I was sorry. Muscles. Izuku, yeah you did. He then turned towards her and bringing her closer that she blushed. Izuku, I guess being prideful I tend to be more confident. Maybe I like it. With that they got closer with their lips meeting each other and enjoying the taste they were sharing. It got heated when Izuku grabbed Mei by the waist, making her wrap her legs around him, deepening the kiss even more while Izuku placed himself on the sand to enjoy Mei's taste, both of them miming in pleasure until they released themselves to catch. This image does not follow our content guidelines. To continue publishing, please remove it or upload a different image. It got heated when Izuku grabbed Mei by the waist, making her wrap her legs around him, deepening the kiss even more while Izuku placed himself on the sand to enjoy Mei's taste, both of them miming in pleasure until they released themselves to catch a breath of air and looking at each other's eyes. Mei, that was something else. Izuku, yeah I'm glad I'm enjoying this with you. Mei then got closer to Izuku's neck, giving him small kisses. Mei, I'm glad I can have this moment with you as well. Izuku. The two of them enjoying themselves and embracing each other while Izuku looked at the moon, feeling a bit of heat coming from it. Izuku, this is nice. Mei, it is. Nobody's POV. Right now we see Izuku, who is wearing his glasses along with his new school uniform, getting ready to head out and go to his new school. Until he heard his mother calling out to him, which he turned around just in time to see his mother jumping and giving her son a big mama bear hug, which he smiled. Inko, I'm so proud of you. Izuku, I hope you have a good day at school. Izuku, of course mom. With that he left and walked for a bit until he stopped for a second, taking off his glasses and feeling his power increasing along with his muscles expanding caused him to remove his jacket. Izuku, well now it seems things might get a bit interesting when I head to school. And then he jumped in the air and running on buildings at a fast pace. Uehaya School that was designed for upcoming students to be trained to be excellent heroes, businessmen and women and even inventors once they graduated, and as of right now we see Izuku trying to find his class. Izuku, what the hell? How hard is it for me to find my class? It's not prideful of me to be lost. But when Izuku finally found his class, he was a bit surprised at the size of the door itself. Once Izuku opened the door, he just felt the need to remove his glasses at the sight that was before him. Don't put your legs on the desk. Don't you think that's disrespectful towards your classmates? No, as a matter of fact, I don't think so. Which middle school are you from anyway, you 2-bit extra? I'm from Somei Junior High School. The name's Tenya Ida. Somei? Well, aren't you an elite? Seems I've got a reason to filing end you after all. Ida, what nerve? You want to be a hero? When the two boys along with everyone who turned their attention towards the open door, they saw Izuku, who simply gave a look of disinterest on his face. Ida then walked towards Izuku only to stop when Izuku glared at him. Izuku, look, I already know your name so you don't have to introduce yourself. Ida, I see, but I would like to say that you must have found the actual nature of the practical skills exam, didn't you? I was so blind and I completely misread you. I hate to admit it, but you were the better man. Izuku could only sigh seeing as this young man was serious about this, but Izuku let a bit of his power out. Izuku, Tenya Ida? Don't think I'll forget your disrespect from before. As of right now we're just classmates, nothing more. He said it so calmly with Ida nodding his head that he understood. Deku. Hey, I know that hair. Izuku turned around to be met with someone who looked up towards him because of the height difference. I'm glad I found you. Izuku, with a look of interest in his eyes, simply smiled at the young maiden before him. Izuku, and it's nice to see you too, Réohataka. I'm glad you're in the same class. It would have been a bit boring if I didn't see a familiar face. He said this while patting Ochako on her head, with her having a light blush form the action, but she did laugh, enjoying the moment. Ochako, well I'm glad, but could you stop petting me? Izuku just smiled seeing her blush. Izuku, but it seems you like it, but if that is what you want then I'll stop. For now at least. This just made Ochako lightly punch him that he laughed. Meanwhile we see someone who hates Izuku with so much hate, remembering how Izuku stood up against him while he was on the ground. Izuku, did you think you were going to be the best? Who decided that? Did you think I would be threatened by you? Who decided that? Don't think you're meant to be the best, cause there will always be someone who can beat you, Bakugu, and that person will be me, who has pride in his very soul. Bakugu, Deku, I swear I'm gonna beat you down. Ochako, but I do wonder about today's ceremony? Or is it guidance counselor stuff today? Oh, and the teacher, what'll they be like? I'm so anxious. If you're gonna be hunting for buddies, do it elsewhere. The voice made Ochako to turn around to see something on the ground with a man's face. This is the Department of Heroics. He said this while taking one SCK from his juice pouch. Most of the students were wondering who he is while he was getting out of his sleeping bag. It took you all 8 seconds to quiet down. Life is short. Kids, you're lacking in common sense. I'm your homeroom teacher. The name's Shoyuta Aizawa, but you have to call me Sensei or Aizawa Sensei. It's a pleasure meeting you. This got them surprised that he's their homeroom teacher. When Aizawa suddenly took out what appeared to be a uniform. Aizawa, wear these immediately and then shove off to the P.E. grounds. When all the students heard this, they left and headed to the changing room with Izuku looking at the upper part of the P.E. uniform like it was some curse. Hey man, you doing okay? When Izuku heard that, he turned around to look down to see a young man with red hair that was spiked upright with red eyes along with his teeth being sharp. Izuku, I would say that wearing the upper part of uniform will likely restrict my movements for a bit if it tears. Wow, I mean, considering how shredded you look, that could be a problem. Anyways, the name's Ejiro Kirishima. Just wanted to introduce myself to the one that's so manly. Izuku, really now? Kirishima, yeah, from what I've heard you took down a 0-pointer with ease. I gotta say, you must have one heck of a power to that much damage. Izuku, you could say that. Izuku closed his locker door while putting on the P.E. jacket even though it felt a little tight. Izuku, Shota Aizawa, let's see if you're prideful enough. Nobody's POV. A surprise test for the class of 1A, along with the fact that whoever comes last will face expulsion, and thus commenced the start of the Quirk assessment test for class 1A. First came the 50-meter dash, where most of the class did well on some who were in their element while others weren't. When it came to Izuku's and Katsuki's turn, Katsuki tried to scare Izuku only to get ignored from the greenette. When it came for them to go, all Katsuki saw was a blur and the sound of the machine. Machine, time, 2.34 seconds. This came as a shock for Bakugu, who saw Izuku only sighing at the time he ran. Bakugu, no way. There's no way this Deku is powerful than me. But he was so wrong. The fact is, once the test continued, Izuku knew that using even a little bit of his power would be downright chaotic, so he held back, but he still made eyes turn towards him when dealing with the events for the test. And then came the final event, which was the softball throw. After seeing Ochako gained an infinity sign for her throw, it then came towards Izuku, who wasn't worried in the slightest. Man, I wonder how's he gonna do for this event? After seeing why he did before, it's no wonder he came first in the entrance exam. Midoriya seems to be well versed in almost all the events so far. I do wonder how well he'll handle this one. That Demon Deku is a quirkless loser. He won't make it far. What are you talking about? Of course he has quirk. You should have seen how he took down the 0-pointer. What? Izuku, who was in the circle, almost went to take off his glasses, but he stopped and shook his head. Izuku, no point of doing that. I've already gained enough to come close to the top 3. Izuku, clenching the ball, got into position and feeling his muscles stretching the fabric of the P.E. uniform, he knew he had go make this quick, so with one swift motion, he threw the ball, and seeing it soar in the air until he heard go far, he threw it. Machine. Distance, 799.5 meters. Izuku, a bit satisfied, was about to leave until he was stopped. Was that you giving it your all, Izuku Midoriya? If so, then what's the point of you being in this school? Not only did Izuku heard this, but the rest of the class did as well, seeing their teacher giving Izuku a glare with his eyes glowing along with the cloth that was around his neck floating along with his hair. Izuku, is there a reason you're saying this to me, sensei? Aizawa went to grab Izuku, which he did, and went to pull him, but that was difficult because Izuku didn't move from his spot at all. And all Izuku could do was sigh at his teacher's pitiful effort. Izuku, sensei, I will make something clear. Removing his glasses from his face and sending it towards Ochako, who felt the spectacles on top of her head. Izuku, you're quite too late to try and take me down. Once Izuku said that his voice changed, becoming deeper, along with the fact that he started to get taller, with a bit of steam coming from his body, with the jacket on his person beginning to tear away. Izuku, did you think your little threat can affect me? Who decided that? Izuku, did you think just because I haven't given it my all you think I'm weak? Who decided that? Oops. This image does not follow our content guidelines. To continue publishing, please remove it or upload a different image. Izuku, did you think just because I haven't given it my all you think I'm weak? Who decided that? His jacket completely destroyed, causing his classmates to see his physique along with the tattoo of a lion on his back. The sight of his body caused most of the girls to have red faces, while some of the guys were wondering how much did he lift to get that kind of body. Izuku, with his eyes staring directly at his teacher, who felt like he was but a mere insect in front of a giant. Izuku, with his eyes staring directly at his teacher, who felt like he was but a mere insect in front of a giant. Oops. This image does not follow our content guidelines. To continue publishing, please remove it or upload a different image. Izuku simply stared at his teacher, who let go of him and deactivated his quirk, with Izuku simply smiling. Izuku, I see your pride is telling you when to quit when facing something who is leagues ahead of you. Izuku turned towards his classmates and walked, seeing that they were feeling the heat coming off of him, but he didn't care. When he was face to face with Ochako, who had to look up even more and blushing a lot, Izuku simply chuckled while granting his glasses and then patting her head. Izuku, thank you for keeping my glasses safe, Uraraka. It fills my heart with pride, but unfortunately I have go and change to all of you. Putting on his glasses, he shrank a bit, but he was still tall with a smile on his face. Izuku, I hope you guys don't get expelled, so don't give up. With that, he left, leaving a stunned class along with a teacher who felt his heart racing in fright, along with another who saw everything with a look of surprise and fear. With Bakugo, who couldn't even move his body, the reason being from the fact that Izuku, who somehow had a quirk, and the way he looked at the class with a serious look, but he knew that Izuku was staring directly at him, and he felt his hands clenched, but not in anger, but in fear. Bakugo, that fucker. He had a quirk this entire time? How? In it, there's no way, no, that he can't be stronger than me. He can't dim it. Meanwhile, we see Izuku donning his school uniform and walking towards a room that read support department. Izuku, let's see what Dreads is doing inside. Hopefully we can start with the weapon soon. With that, he went inside with the sound of excitement, and the dozes of explosions inside the room along came with laughter. Nobody's POV. The next few days everything was normal, like any ordinary high school, right? Normal. That's all anyone could call the first half of UA High School's day. Completely normal subjects, like math, English, classical Japanese, were taught as if they were at a normal high school. The only difference was that they were taught by pro heroes for these mundane subjects. Pro heroes like Ectoplasm teaching mathematics, or Present Mike teaching English. It was the epitome of normal for a school, barring that one difference. When the lunch bell rang, the whole of 1A made their way towards the cafeteria. The reactions to the first half of their classes were varied. Some, like Ashido, Kaminari, Siro, and Hagakure, looked wiped out, while others, including Yaoyorozu, Ida, Bakugo, and Izuku, weren't bothered by the lessons much. We head towards the students of Class 1A who were enjoying their lunches in peace, but for a certain young fellow with pride as bright as the sun, he was seen waiting inside one of the classrooms that held support items for those who will be full-fledged heroes, and this is where we see a young girl with pink dreadlocks who was busy with something she never got the chance to make 10 months ago. Izuku, with his glasses on, couldn't help but smile, seeing how someone who is important to him be so confident, determined, and dedicated in her work. It makes him wonder, if he didn't gain and earn these powers, would they have ever had a relationship like this? May, you're staring intensely, muscles, why is that? Saying this while not looking away from her work makes Izuku wonder if May has a second quirk. Izuku, well, why can't I admire the person I care about making her wonderful inventions? May, flattery won't help you. But Izuku, who stood up from his seat, started walking towards May and wrapped his arms around her midsection, causing her to stop doing her magic and slightly turning her head to look at Izuku, who was smiling. Izuku, but at the very least it's working, and I meant every word I said. May, I care for you so much that I don't want to see you get hurt. Mei could only stare into the eyes of the boy who she loves and couldn't help but blush while having a smile on her face and getting closer to Izuku, feeling the heat from his body caused her to feel warm and be at peace. Mei, and I care about you too, Izuku, and for that. Saying this while getting out of her lover's grasp and focusing back on her babies. Mei, I still have to finish up with this particular baby, so no more distractions, okay? Izuku just chuckled and turned Mei's head and gave her a kiss in the lips, which she accepted willingly, enjoying the taste so much that she was starting to get hot in her clothes. But just as she got ready to take him right here and now, Izuku released his lips from hers while having a satisfying smirk on his face, making Mei to blush even more. Izuku, it's like you said, no more distractions, and besides I have to head to class. I'll talk to you later, dreads. And with that he left, leaving Mei to stare at his retreating figure, and the only thing she had on her teenage mind was ways to get her hunk of a lover to give her the kind of heat she needed. Right now lunch was over, which leads Class 1A to be back in class and to see what was on the table for their heroics class. Kirishima, I wonder what the teachers got planned for us today? Zero, hopefully it's something interesting. I mean, who knows, since Aizawa-sensei did say teachers have the liberty to teach the way they see fit. Yaoyorozu, I wonder who our teacher will be for this class. I don't think they mentioned specifically who it will be. While everyone was discussing who their teacher will be, Izuku, however, was busy dealing with something he hasn't done in a long time, writing in his notebooks while having a concentrated look on his face. Izuku, now this, I indeed missed for a while. I do wonder if it's possible to produce even more heat in the night. I gotta see if this theory works. Yeah, I'll make sure Mei doesn't find out. Suddenly the door burst opens, and then came the number one hero, All Might, who appears in all his glory. Izuku, great, not this Johnny Bravo ripoff. All Might, I am here. Coming to the door like a normal person. Kirishima, wow, check it out, it's All Might. Kaminari, whoa, this is gonna be awesome. Tsuyu, is that his Silver Age costume? When All Might walked dramatically towards the front. All Might, hello there students, I'll be teaching you all the tree meaning to being a hero. Today's lesson will be battle training. Bakugu, battle. Izuku, training? All Might, however, what's a hero without the proper wardrobe? Pressing a button to open and revelation the back walk the revealed individual cases for the students with their seat number. All Might, these cases contain each of your hero costumes. Make sure to suit up and meet in the training area. Once he said that, he left the classroom while the students, grabbing their respective cases, and left to get ready and gear up. But with Izuku, he was the last person to be in the class, while stretching a little bit and grabbing his case and walking out of the class until he stopped for a bit, checking his phone to see messages from a certain girl in dreads. Izuku couldn't help but chuckle at what he was reading until he stopped while looking at the sky, while removing his glasses. Izuku, it's unfortunate noon has passed, otherwise I couldn't help but show my classmates what real power feels like. Saying his piece while wearing confidently towards his destination. Nobody's POV. Right now all the students of Class 1A were in their hero suits and ready to face the challenge that their teacher will give them. Alright, you all look ready now, we can begin this lesson. But before he can continue, the sound of footsteps were heard, causing the crest of the class to turn around and see someone walking out of the tunnel, and seeing Izuku without his glasses on while wearing a costume that consists of a long black sleeve top that showed his defined muscles with golden lines running to the middle of his top, and also to the back, with a golden symbol of a lion on his right shoulder along with another lion symbol as his belt buckle, while wearing a dark green combat style. Breathes with black combat boots with metal soles. Everyone looked at Izuku in awe. He was radiating both power and confidence. Looks like I was the last to arrive. Sorry about that. Izuku apologized with a grin. It was then that All Might cut in and told the class what they were going to be doing for the battle trial that day. He explained that it would be a 2-on-2 indoor battle trial. Heroes versus villains. The heroes had 10 minutes to find the villains and either capture both villains or the bomb, while the villains had to defend the bomb and either beat both heroes or they had to run down the clock. They were about to pick teams, until Izuku stopped All Might while saying this. I will be by myself, I don't need someone to accidentally get in my way, Izuku announced. All Might looked at him for a moment and wanted to argue with him about being too overconfident, until the hero saw a look that was directed towards him with nothing but hate, and he could do was nod his head. This didn't go unnoticed from the rest of Class 1A, who looked towards Izuku with looks of uncertainty, but Izuku didn't care. Then the matchups were set. Izuku Midoriya, Team A, versus Katsuki Bakugo and Tenya Ida, Team D. Shoto Todoroki and Mizo Shoji, Team B, versus Masahiro Ojiro and Toru Hagakure, Team I. Fumikage Tokoyami and Tsuyu Azui, Team H, versus Eijiro Kirishima, Minoru Mineta and Hantashiro, Team J. Denki Kaminari and Kyoka Jiro, Team G, versus Momo Yaoyorozu and Achiko Uraraka, Team C. Yuga Aoyama and Mina Ishido, Team E, versus Rikido Sato and Koji Koda, Team F. Izuku was the hero and he just stood across from the building both Bakugo and Ida will be defending. The rest of the class and All Might went to the observation room to watch the match and wait for their turns. Izuku looked like he was relaxing, but in reality, he was thinking over his strategy. He knew Bakugo would come right to his fight, meaning Ida would be left to guard the bomb. He would have to take out Bakugo to then search for Ida and either take him out or get the bomb. He could do that. Begin. All Might then called out. So Izuku just walked into the building. He crouched under the door a bit. He completely skipped the first floor knowing the bomb wouldn't be there. He was halfway through the second floor when Bakugo came around a corner making a large explosion. Huh? Take that, Deku! Bakugo roared, thinking he got a good hit. When the smoke cleared, it showed Izuku completely fine, taking no damage. Was that supposed to hurt me? Izuku asked with a small frown and a raised eyebrow. Bakugo roared and launched another attack at Izuku, who just stood there not even bothering to move. Just like the first attack, it did nothing. When Bakugo came in for a third, Izuku grabbed the wrist and pointed up at the ceiling, then lifted Bakugo up. Before Bakugo could attack again, Izuku landed an uppercut right into Bakugo's solar plexus with his other hand. This caused Bakugo to lurch forward and vomit. Luckily none got on Izuku, who then let go of Bakugo and then instantly straight crossed him, to his face, launching Bakugo down the hallway. Bakugo was trying to stand, but he kept falling back to his knees. His head was spinning, and he was trying to get his breathing under control. Izuku started walking towards him. So, Katsuki, how does it feel to be weaker than someone? Izuku asked him as he kept walking. That thing you are feeling right now, that's what I felt every day before I got my powered up, before I almost listened to your advice. That helplessness, that weakness, that is how I felt every time you lorded your power over me. How does it feel to be on that side of the beatings? Bakugo finally got to his feet, breathing. He had to crane his head to look Izuku in the eyes. I don't care what power you have, Deku, I will always be stronger. Really now? Well, don't you say heroes always win? So what will happen after I put you down today? That would make you the Deku, wouldn't it? It was at that moment that one of Bakugo's grenade gauntlets flashed. Bakugo grinned at that and started laughing hysterically. Izuku just stopped walking and looked at him in slight curiosity. Get ready, Deku. These gauntlets store my sweat to make an explosion larger than I have ever made. With one of these, I am going to kill you. Bakugo screamed as he brought up the grenade and pointed it at Izuku. As he reached for the pin, that is when All Might's voice could be heard. Young Bakugo, don't do it, will hurt him. He won't die if he dodges. With that, Bakugo pulled the pin and a huge explosion came from the grenade, shaking the building and filling the hallway with countless explosions and smoke. When it was done, Bakugo was breathing from exerting. He started laughing again. How do you like that, Deku? Seriously? That was your best. With a swing of his arm, Izuku blew away the smoke. He was standing there no worse for wear. Only pieces of his costume were burnt or had holes in them. He had no wounds. Bakugo just stood there shocked. His ultimate attack did nothing. Not a single thing. Not even a scratch was on Izuku. Well, since you used a ranged attack, I will as well. Unfortunately, you won't handle it, Izuku said, and he brought his hand up and pointed at Bakugo with 2 fingers. He then made a small sun about 3 feet in diameter. Cruel Sunday. Izuku launched the small sun at Bakugo, would never even try to move. This image does not follow our content guidelines. To continue publishing, please remove it or upload a different image. Izuku launched the small sun at Bakugo, would never even try to move. It hit him head-on, taking out the floor, walls, and ceiling around him. With that, Izuku knew Bakugo wasn't getting back up. 2-minute warning. All Might said with shock in his voice. Izuku then started to run. He ran to the 3rd floor and covered it in 20 seconds. When he got to the 4th floor, he saw Ida standing in a large room with the bomb. "Ah, hero, you are finally here. I just have to hold you off for a minute and this game goes to me," Ida monologued. Izuku simply stared until he walked towards Ida. "I'm winning this." But Howard Dash, he was then cut off as Izuku blasted past him and touched the bomb. "Heroes win," All Might yelled. Ida stood there frozen in shock at what happened. Izuku then walked up to him. "Forgive me, but hurting you would have been meaningless, and all I did was walked past you and won," Izuku said with pride in his voice. Ida just took off his helmet and turned to him, with shock on his face. Izuku just grinned at him with his glasses back on, showing a hint of sincerity, and patted Ida on his shoulder. Butch made Ida then grinned at Izuku and put his hand out. Izuku looked at it and took it as they shook hands, showing sportsmanship. The sound of someone running, their feet hitting the ground. They contained sand so white like it was reminded as snow, with the water that contained salt hitting the sand and causing waves to form, with the person who was simply enjoying himself while the sun hit his face while it reflected off of his glasses. Izuku Midoriya, who was the one that was running on the beach to get his mind at ease for a bit after he had to deal with the idiot known as All Might. I tried to question him, but that was futile because as long as Izuku takes off his glasses, his pride shows itself full and lets out a flame that was hotter than the sun itself with his words alone. Izuku could just sigh while staring at the sun, feeling his body absorbing the rays of light, feeling even stronger. "It won't be long until Mei creates the weapon for me that I told her about. Did I wonder what kind of gift she likes? Or maybe giving her flowers. Then there's Ochako. Man. Have I become a player?" Izuku wondered until he saw the time and remembered that his mom was making something from scratch, and Izuku wanted to see the creation that his mother would make, so with a jog that looked like a quick run he left the beach. It was the next day and we see Izuku was currently sitting on a bus with his head resting against the window, his eyes closed. He and his class were currently on their way to an off-campus site to participate in some rescue training. Izuku's thoughts though weren't on that now, his thoughts were going about what had happened the last couple of days. After Izuku had beaten Bakugo and Ida, he went back to the observation room with Ida at his side. When they had gotten back, All Might, who was being professional, congratulated Izuku on his win and told Ida he had done well, but Izuku saw through that so-called professionalism and moved away from the so-called symbol of peace. He then asked the class who they believed the MVP was. Momo raised her hand to answer the question. She believed Ida was the MVP because he wanted to be a team player and was the only one trying to protect the bomb. She stated the Bakugo just left him to fight Izuku, and Izuku allowed the fight to happen even if you could have avoided it with his speed, and just went straight to the bomb. Ida was grateful for the praise and Izuku just patted him on the shoulder with a smile. Izuku then watched the rest of the battles. Some were more one-sided than others. He thought about Todoroki when went through that train of thought. The rest of the day went off without a hitch though. Izuku had a chuckle when All Might bolt out of the room when class was over because his time had run out. The next day Aizawa had brought up it was time to pick a class president and vice president. It was decided they would hold an election for the roles. Izuku got 5 votes, Momo got 3 votes, and Ida got this made Izuku the president and Momo the vice president. During lunch, Izuku told Ida he had voted for him. That caught Ida and Uraraka off guard. When asked why, Izuku informed them that it takes more than strength to be a leader, which made Ida raise his arms in robotic motion while saying to Izuku that he's more of a leader than he realized, which got Izuku to chuckle for a bit. That was when the alarm went off, causing a panic in the cafeteria. Everyone was running towards the exit. Both Izuku and Ida saw it was the media that caused the alarms. They looked at each other and nodded. Izuku then took off his glasses while handing it to Ida and powered up and flooded the room with heat and pressure, causing everyone to freeze. They all heard heavy footsteps. The sound of it felt nothing but power. As they turned towards it, they couldn't help but feel fear as they saw Izuku, who was taller than them and narrowing his eyes that held power. Is this UA or just preschool with children? How dare you show no little amount of pride while being students of this prestigious school? Where's your pride? Where's your dignity to be somebody better and prove that you're not the same as before you came to this school? Be prideful, be arrogant towards making something good for yourself and stop acting like toddlers and head back to the cafeteria orderly. As soon as he said, those who didn't know Izuku followed his orders, while the ones who knows him, with some of them, simply nodded their head in respect. Once they were back in their classroom, Izuku asked if the class should do a revote because he wondered if his classmates would change their mind. Unfortunately, because of the effect of what he did during the panic, instead of 5 votes, he got more than half the class votes for him, with him just sighing as he saw this, but nevertheless he didn't deny them and simply folded his arms. It would seem your pride made the right choice here. Very well, as your class president, I would like to thank you. Izuku then saw some of them clapping with him, placing his glasses back on hole, taking his seat, but not before giving Ochako a smile that made her flutter in embarrassment. Izuku was brought back to the bus when he heard someone say his name. He turned his head and saw it was the frog girl. "Hello, Tsu, what can I do for you?" Izuku asked the girl. "Ribbit? Call me Tsu. Anyway, Midoriya, I am a blunt person, so I am just going to be honest. Your quirk, the way you use it, looks like a combination of strength and heat, similar to All Might's Land, the number 2 hero." This had caught the attention of everyone around them, with one who stared at Izuku intently. Izuku frowned while feeling his pride showing, while still having the glasses on for a second before he gained a small smile. "Well, if I can call you Tsu, then you can call me Izuku." Izuku then looked around the bus. "That goes for the rest of you as well. Now to answer your question, Tsu, no, I don't think my quirk is similar to All Might nor the number 2 hero, however it's actually a combination of my parents' quirks." Izuku lied through his teeth, which almost made him want to puke out blood for what he just said. "My father could breathe fire and my mom can attract small items to herself. So this lead to something different, because to me it feels like I'm stockpiling the heat from the sun, hence why I call it sunshine for my quirk, which stockpiles the more I'm in the sun to gain more power, similar to fat gum with fat. I stockpile that solar heat within me and use it to dramatically increase all my physical aspects, as well as make heat-based attacks like you all have witnessed. So, telling you this and what I am getting at our power output may look similar to others, but to me it's completely different." Izuku's explanation seemed to put everyone to rest. That was when Aizawa announced that they had arrived. They all exited the bus to see they were in front of a large domed building. When they entered, the whole class saw how many different climates were in the building. "This is the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, or USJ for short," Aizawa informed the class. After his comment, the Hero 13 made her appearance. She made a signal to Aizawa about why All Might wasn't there. Izuku was the only one who noticed and just shrugged it off. Then 13 went on a whole spiel about how any quirk can be dangerous, and that as heroes even a dangerous quirk can be used for good. That is when a black mist appeared on the plaza at the bottom of the stairs. Izuku was the first to notice it. "Aizawa, I think we have a problem." Aizawa then turned to see what Izuku was looking at. He and the rest of the class watched multiple villains appeared from the black mist. Dozens of villains had appeared, but the 3 that had caught the most attention were the Black Mist villain, a walking muscled bird monster, and a bluish gray-haired villain covered in hands. 13 Evacuate the students, those are real villains, Aizawa ordered as he jumped down the stairs. Izuku watched after him. He is more of an assassin than an infantryman. This isn't going to end well. Izuku thought, and he stayed where he was and didn't follow his class. That is when he heard a voice he didn't recognize behind him. As he turned, he saw the Black Mist villain from before. "Greetings, hero hopefuls, I am Kurogyri and we are the League of Villains." The now named Kurogyri spoke to the class. "Our mission is to kill All Might. You golden eggs are inconsequential." That was when Bakugo and Kirishima rushed forward to attack the villain. He swiftly dodged their attacks and then spent them through a portal. Then before anyone could react, others were sent through portals as well. Izuku didn't move. In fact, he deemed Kurogyri as nothing but cannon fodder and not a threat, so he let the warp user send him through a portal because he has a responsibility to protect his classmates. When he exited the portal, he saw that he was falling towards a body of water. He didn't panic, he knew he would enter the water without much damage. When he entered the water, it took him a few seconds to get his bearings. When he looked around, he saw water-adapted villains swimming around him. The one that looked like a shark rushed at him. Izuku didn't panic. Panicking gets you killed. When the shark man got close enough, Izuku drew out the power that was stored in him that caused him to increase his height and muscle mass a little, and then he hit the shark man in the snout as hard as he could with his enhanced strength. The shark man, being unprepared for that kind of strength in the water, was launched backward a few dozen meters. That was when other villains were attacked by a green blur in the water. Izuku took notice that it was the frog girl Tsu. After she cleared the villains around Izuku, she launched her tongue at him. When she saw that Izuku cancelled his power, so she wouldn't be heated up and accidentally burn her as well as making himself lighter, she gripped him and tossed him up in the air so that Izuku could see the ship, and landed with a thud a few seconds later, and another thud was heard, only this one was felt like it was slammed, and the person who groaned from the impact was Minoru Mineta, and with Tsu being the last person to climb up on the ship that was in the middle of the water. He looked at the frog girl. "Thank you for the assistance, I am at a small disadvantage in the water," he told her sincerely. "Don't mention it, but we need a plan to get out of here. They have us outnumbered a lot." Izuku looked back at the group of water-based villains eyeing them from the water. Just before Izuku could say anything, Mineta started to panic at the fact they're going to die while saying he didn't achieve his dream on being a chick magnet. "Are you sure you're in the right class, Mineta?" Tsu asked towards the short-stacked kid who could only cry at the fact that they just got out of junior high and now they're fighting for their lives against villains, but before he could say anything else he was suddenly grabbed and lifted from his cape and was face to face with Izuku without his glasses, and Mineta saw the flames in his eyes dancing and moving violently in them. "Are you here to be a hero? Or to be a disappointment in my field of vision, because as of right now your pride on yourself is barely a flicker that it makes me sick? Get your act together." Izuku said this while dropping Mineta back on the ground, who was trembling, with Izuku turning his attention towards Tsuyu. "You have all the abilities of a frog, right?" "Yeah, why do you ask?" "Just taking stock of everything that can be used to fight these guys," Izuku hummed out while having his glasses on once more, as he was still thinking of the best course of action. She just nodded back to him, also in the thought of what they should do. "I could use a cruel sun, but that might cause more damage than needed. But I need a way to make sure the villains are taken care of. The Great Boy's sticky orbs can be useful, but right now his mind is scared and won't be much help in his state. Oh well." Izuku's eyes then lit up. "I may have a plan," Izuku told Tsu as he turned to her while shutting up a frightening Mineta who was shedding tears. She looked back at him. "Okay, what is it?" "I am going to power up and launch a strong punch that creates a whirlpool that makes it so all the villains are grouped together. When they are stuck spinning, I am going to use a cruel sun to make sure they are out cold." Izuku explained to her. Wouldn't they drown if they are out cold in the water? I don't know if they can all breathe underwater." Tsu asked. "Well, I could use enough heat to evaporate the water." Izuku suggested. "You would have to grab Mineta and jump as high as you can, so you and him aren't affected by the heat." Tsu nodded at that and agreed to his plan. Izuku then took a couple of steps away from her as he called upon the heat in his chest. Heat and pressure shot out from him as he grew in height and weight. It only took him a second to power up. "Okay, Tsu, the second I launch the heat attack, grab the coward and jump as high as you can," Izuku confirmed with her as he looked down at her. She just looked at him with a small blush and nodded. Izuku then took to the air. He shot up about 70 feet when he started to float there. He pulled his arm back, feeling his power being released and preparing a punch. "Disappear," was all Izuku said as he launched a punch down towards the water. The force of the punch made an opening in the water 30 feet in diameter. Then the water rushed towards the opening, causing a whirlpool. All the villains were caught in it. With that, Izuku created a sun half the size of his body. "Cruel sun," Izuku stated as he launched the attack. The second it was in the middle of the whirlpool, Izuku extended his open hand out. Flare. With that, the water disappeared in a flash of steam. Izuku looked towards the boat he launched from and saw Tsu and Mineta panicking, with Tsu slightly panicking with Mineta screaming like a girl as the two of them started to fall. Izuku chuckled at that a little bit as he launched himself towards them. He caught them 30 feet from the ground. They then landed in the now empty lake, with Tsu thanking Izuku, who just nodded as he placed Tsu and Mineta. Auden, with the latter, could only stare at Izuku, with the boy himself felt like he had just gained an admirer for some reason. But as they looked towards where the villains were, what they saw were slightly burned and unconscious villains who were no threat. As soon as they saw that they were in the clear, Izuku then removed his glasses, and this caused his height to increase along with more muscles that caused Tsu to blush. Izuku then let out a breath, feeling his power no longer feeling restricted. He turned towards his classmates with his tone that held nothing but authority. Let's make sure the rest of our classmates don't end up dead. Right now Mineta, Tsuyu and Izuki decided to head towards the central plaza. Since Tsu insisted they should be stealthy, even though Izuku didn't care that much, it took them a little while to get to the central plaza. When they got there, what they saw shocked them. Most of the villains were out cold, but the monster had Aizawa pinned down with the hand guy mocking him. He then noticed both Izuku and Tsu. He rushed towards them. He stretched his hand to grab Tsu's face, but his outstretched arm was caught by Izuku. Now I would advise you not to try to kill my classmates in my presence, Izuku informed the handyman calmly, but the hidden threat in that statement was heard by all. An NPC thinks he can talk back to me. And you? The villain yelled. That was when a black blur shot towards Izuku, who only turned his head and was punched in the face, but Izuku didn't move an inch and simply stared at the beast. Huh, interesting, it has power and speed close to All Might. Of course it does, Nomu here was made to kill All Might. The villain bragged to Izuku. Izuku raised an eyebrow at that. Tsu, Mineta, get Aizawa and get to safety at the top of the stairs, Izuku ordered. His tone had so much authority that the two teens jumped straight to Aizawa. That was when the door busted off its hinges. There stood All Might, and he wasn't smiling. He took a look over the central plaza and rushed into action. He knocked out all still conscious villains and got Aizawa, Mineta and Tsu into his arms and took them up the stairs. All Might, Izuku is still down there and he is fighting a monster that is meant to kill you, Tsu informed the symbol of peace. He looked at her and nodded and was down the stairs and at Izuku's side in a second. Young Midoriya, I know you can handle this, but I ask you to look for your classmates that are still around the USJ. All Might requested. Izuku took a look at him and stared for a minute. Then he just nodded. Fine, it will be done, Faker. With that, Izuku disappeared in a burst of speed. Izuku went to the conflagration zone, which was full of fire. He rushed through and found Ojiro holding his own. Izuku came in and took out the rest. He informed Ojiro where the others were. Izuku then went on to search for the others. He then went to the mountain zone next and found Momo, Jiro, and Kaminari struggling. Izuku stepped in and took out the one full conscious villain and informed them where to go. He went to the landslide zone and found no one and continued on to the ruins zone and found no one as well. He finally checked to the downpour zone and found Tokoyami and Koda. He took out the rest of the villains and informed them where to go. With that, 3 minutes had passed. Izuku landed back in the central plaza. He turned and saw All Might struggling with the Nomu while Todoroki, Bakugo, and Kirishima were watching on. He appeared next to Todoroki. Todoroki just glanced at Izuku but said nothing. Izuku just started walking towards the fight. What's going on, All Might? Gotten weak in your old age? Izuku asked, walking forward. This caused all attention to turn to him, even the Nomu. That was only because of the pressure Izuku was exerting. Young Midoriya, I thought I told Dash. All Might was then cut off by Izuku. Already took care of it. Since you are struggling so much, how about I step in? We both know who's the most powerful between you and I. Face it, All Might, I am stronger than you, Izuku said with the utmost confidence. The god is 3 classmates and the head villain to freeze. This kid isn't showing All Might any respect. He might not be an NPC but a playable character, were the hand villain's thoughts. Before anyone could react, the Nomu shot towards, arm raised for a punch. Izuku raised his fist and matched the Nomu in strength. He saw the reaction to the punch on the Nomu and that caught its attention. Izuku and the Nomu kept trading blows as everyone else watched on. Izuku landed a solid uppercut on the Nomu's sternum and watched as it rippled, but the Nomu didn't react. Ha! Nomu has shock absorption. Everything you throw at it, it can tank the hit. The handy villain bragged like this was his most favorite toy. Izuku frowned at that and jumped back from the Nomu. If that's the case, then I'll to use the gift my precious dear made for me, Izuku said as he raised his arm in the air and opened his hand. Then he made a grabbing motion. Nothing happened. After 7 seconds, right before the handyman started shouting, a piece of the ceiling exploded. When that happened, An object shot towards Izuku. He snatched it out of the air. Izuku was holding a large one-sided golden battle axe. It was close to half the length of his body. It had a small handle for its size fit for only was one hand. The handle had a dark green wrapping and on the side of the axe blade, it had a guard with 4 evenly spaced spikes. Up where the massive curled blade was on the other side of the main blade and the top of the axe 2 more blades looked like large spearheads. Many looked at the weapon in shock. "This is Divine Axe Rita, my weapon," Izuku informed all that could hear as he stared the creature known as Nomu, who suddenly took a step back from sheer power that the axe held in the hands of Izuku Midoriya, who simply held the axe and had his hand up with one finger. "Remember this well, for I am Izuku Midoriya, the lion's sin of pride. This was a gift from my dear sweet benefactor, and I will use it to help me achieve my dream." Izuku then started walking towards the Nomu with holding on to the axe and resting it on his shoulder. The Nomu, seeing the advancement, started walking towards Izuku as well. They stopped 5 feet apart just staring at each other. Izuku had a small inquisitive look while the Nomu had a blank stare. "Haha, you think you can take on Nomu? That's pretty funny." The villain laughed. Izuku turned to him. "I'm sorry I haven't caught your name." "What would that be?" "The name's Tamura Shigaraki, kid, not like it will matter anyway." The now named Shigaraki told him as he started chuckling again. Izuku bellowed out a few laughs as well, then in an instant cut the monster in half above the waist where the stomach would be. The Nomu dropped to the ground like a puppet whose strings had been cut. This shocked everyone in the central plaza and the rest watching from on top of the stairs. One strike looks like I overestimated the creature." Izuku turned to Shigaraki. "Is that the best you have to face me? Because if so, you should run now." You cheater, you're nothing but a cheater." Shigaraki started ranting while scratching his neck relentlessly. "Tamura Shigaraki, you need to calm yourself. Remember, shock absorption wasn't its only quirk." This made Shigaraki and everyone else in the plaza freeze. Izuku just looked at them curiously with one raised eyebrow. "Heh, you're right, Kurogiri, why should I panic? Look, Nomu is already fixing himself." That is when a gurgling and swishing sound began. Izuku and the others turned and saw strands of muscle appearing out of the top half of the Nomu and connected with the lower half, and it made the creature reconnect, and soon it was fully healed. Nomu doesn't just have shock absorption, it also has hyper-regeneration as well. The creature was now fully healed, and it roared out. "Now Nomu, kill the cheater," Shigaraki ordered. The Nomu then rushed at Izuku, who swung Rita, cutting off the raised arm at the shoulder, then threw a hard punch right to the creature's face, turning its head as Izuku brought up a leg and kicked it as hard as he could. That was enough to disturb the shock absorption and send the creature skidding back a few meters. I could use Rita, but cutting up the creature so much will make me look like a maniac. Looks like it is back to fists and beating the absorption." Izuku thought as he turned so he could take in All Might and his classmates. "All Might," Izuku said, catching his attention. "Hold on to this for a moment." Izuku then tossed the axe to him, causing All Might to panic for a second, but he caught the axe and then immediately dropped it while still holding on to it. "Yeah, it's heavy. Just make sure it stays in your sight," Izuku informed him as Izuku turned back around at the now regenerated Nomu and launched himself forward. The two powerhouses started trading blows and looked like they were fighting on even footing. The Nomu just absorbed all the hits Izuku got on the creature, and Izuku wasn't taking any damage from the hits the Nomu got on him as well. Izuku got in close and wrapped an arm around the creature's neck, and then with his other arm started repeatedly striking the creature in its gut, trying to cause it damage. After about 5 of those, the creature took damage. Izuku wound up one more punch using all his current output and hit the Nomu in the sternum while releasing the next, sending it across the plaza. The creature laid there for a second but stood back up, looking no worse for wear. "Hee, you think you can take out Nomu? Your attacks have no effect on him. He can absorb all you dish out, and what it can't handle it will heal the damage. It is going to kill you, and there isn't anything you can do about it." Shigaraki yelled out, laughing at the end. Izuku stood there for a second, then he raised his right arm up and pointing straight up with his pointer finger. "My attacks have no effect. Who decided that? That monster is going to kill me. Who decided that?" As Izuku spoke, he made a sun as large as his body from his finger. The sun was giving off an impressive amount of heat and pressure. Everyone in the plaza was affected. Just what is this kid? The pressure and heat he is giving off are insane. All Might thought. This brat. Wait, don't tell me this kid is a secret boss. Shigaraki screamed in his head. Now for Cruel Sunday. I will be the one to decide. The sun above Izuku seemed to get even hotter and brighter than it was seconds before. Now, die, Izuku said with cold eyes as he launched the sun at the Nomu. The creature tried to block the sun but was only enveloped in the sun. It started skidding back and soon launched through the air by the rocketing sun. The creature roared out in pain as it was being scorched by the sun. The sun launched upwards, still enveloping the Nomu. It shot through the ceiling, eradicating a part of the ceiling. The sun kept going upward and soon was out of sight. No one could believe what just happened. The creature that was giving All Might a run for his money was just annihilated by Izuku, who just stood there not even winded and looking no worse for wear. Izuku turned to Shigaraki and the one named Kurojiri. Now, since your ace in the hole is gone, do you wish to continue? The way Izuku spoke so calmly and nonchalantly, like he was talking about the weather, caught All Might and his classmates to just gape at him. Bakugo was just fuming, but he didn't say a word, knowing he was outclassed here by a lot. You, what are you? Tamura Shigaraki screamed out. You were just supposed to be an NPC that could be killed in a second, but you're not. No, you're a goddamn secret boss. That's the only way this could happen. Shigaraki ranted. Izuku tilted his head at this a little bit. Secret boss? Oh, you are using video game logic. I don't play much, but I know enough to get the reference. You see me as a boss that was hidden until you did something to find me? That sounds about right. Izuku said with a nod. Before anything could be said, a gun was fired, the shot was heard, and Shigaraki was shot in the leg, then in the arm as he fell. Kurojiri was at his side in an instant and surrounded the villain. With that, both warped away. Izuku and the rest in the plaza looked up and saw the other teachers, and Snipe had one of his guns pointed out with the barrel smoking. Looks like backup finally got here. Izuku commented as he walked towards All Might. He then picked up Rita and rested it on his shoulder. We should probably head up there, Izuku said as he looked at his classmates. Kirishima looked at him and nodded with a grin. Bakugo fumed and crossed his arms but started walking towards the stairs. Finally, Todoroki glanced at Izuku, gave a curt nod, and followed after Bakugo. Izuku looked back at All Might, and when his classmates were far enough, Izuku asked, Are you so weak that your true self is gonna be shown, All Might? Izuku said as he stared at the symbol of peace and left him there while walking towards the rest of his classmates with no ounce of fatigue on his person, as he saw them become silenced as he towered over them, until he walked towards Ochako, who was holding his glasses and being held by Izuku, who placed her on his shoulder. Tamura fell through the portal and landed hard on the ground, groaning a little bit. By the wounds you have and the lack of the Nomu, I am going to assume it was beaten. A voice from a TV monitor from the other side of the room said, Sensei, Tamura started, you're right, the Nomu was beaten. And it wasn't even from All Might but a secret boss. Tamura growled out. This caught the one named Sensei a little off guard. Really describe this person. This kid was taller and bigger than All Might, he was even stronger. He even used this big axe and used the large fire attack to beat the Nomu. But the thing I caught most was he disrespected All Might, calling him old and weak, and said he was stronger than All Might. Tamura informed his sensei. Now that caught Sensei by surprise. I thought it would have been All Might's successor, but if he disrespected him and used heat-based attacks, that means it wasn't my brother's Quirk. And All Might's successor wouldn't be disrespectful towards him. What did the boy look like? He had bushy dark green and black hair with shining green eyes and freckles on his face, Tamura stated. All Might called him Midoriya, so that might be the kid's last name. Good, Tamura, and it is fine that you failed. That means you can learn from this experience. You can rebuild and be stronger for next time. Heal up, we'll talk later. With that, the feed to the TV was cut. With that, Sensei sat back in his chair. This is a new development, a hero hopeful who declared himself stronger than All Might and backed up his words. He even acted like he didn't like All Might. The hidden man grinned. This is a new piece added to the board and with the right moves could come under my control willing or unwillingly. With that, the man laughed smugly. This is the follow-up report on yesterday's incident at the UA rescue training facility where Hero Course students were attacked by villains. A news reporter reported. These criminals call themselves the League of Villains and have been plotting to kill All Might, who has been a teacher at UA since spring of this year. The reporter continued the report, citizens in the streets stopping to watch the large TV displayed. During that time, or rather during the night, was where we see Izuku laying on a beach towel while staring at the waves. He took a bite of a sweet pastry while placing his other hand in the hair of Mei Hatsum, who was simply enjoying the boy's touch. Izuku could feel it, the heat that was similar to the sun that was directed to the moon. It made him chuckle as he laid close to Mei so the girl could feel his warmth. The next day, the police have investigated the group calling themselves the League of Villains, and there does not appear to be anyone registered with the name Shigaraki in his 20s or 30s with a quirk that lets him disintegrate whatever he touches. It's the same with the villain called Kurogiri with the warp gate. They are probably not citizens and are using false names. Tsukachi reported to the staff of UA in the meeting room. When the ringleader, Shigaraki's gun wounds heal, they'll definitely try again. It'll be a pain, the teacher with the cowboy hat stated. Their ringleader, huh? All Might repeated. What is it, All Might? Nizu turned to him. It was a bold attack that normal people wouldn't carry out even if they thought of it. To suddenly go on and on with his wild statements like that. Although he didn't reveal his own quirk, he bragged about that Nomu's quirk. And when things didn't go the way he wanted, he was visibly upset. Well, the incident with the quirk was to also force my hand, but All Might explain to them. Even so, it was foolish to throw away the advantage of having unknown quirks when fighting against heroes. Nizu announced, Tsukachi nodding. He made immature, wild statements with a straight face. All Might added, and the thing that was in his possessions. He thought everything would simply go his way. All Might continued. The way I saw of him when he carried out the attack, the picture I get of Shigaraki is someone who hasn't gotten rid of his childish sense of omnipotence, a man-child. All Might finished. A child with power? A teacher with an X scar on his cheek and gray hair asked. Could it be that he never received the quirk counseling every child gets in elementary school? The female teacher suggested. Well, what does that have to do with anything? The cowboy hat asked All Might. There were 72 villains arrested the other day at USJ. They were all small-timers that lurked in back alleys. But the problem is how they all agreed with that man-child and followed him. In the current environment saturated with heroes, villainous people who have been oppressed may be drawn to that kind of simple-minded evil. Tsukachi spoke. There are plenty of people who don't know what to do with their quirks, the cowboy hat stated. This is alarming, though, the female sighed. Well, it's thanks to you heroes that we are able to devote ourselves to our investigation. We'll expand our search network and continue to assist in arresting the perpetrators. Tsukachi told them. A man-child. Nizu softly spoke, getting All Might's attention as he said, in some sense, he's like our students. Theirs is someone who is cultivating his malice, Nizu finished. I don't want to think about what could happen, All Might thought. Once UA opened back up, the students in Class 1A sat in their classroom. Hey, did you watch the news last night? Hagakure asked Shoji and Ojiro. When they nodded, Hagakure told them, Did you see how everyone in class was on screen for a second? I didn't stand out at all. That's true. Shoji agreed. Ojiro jumped a little, an imagery of the girls in Class 1A appearing, Ojiro pointing out, It's hard to stand out looking like that, huh? I don't see the big deal about it. Kaminari leaned back to tell Kirishima about the news channels. I was surprised. Kirishima replied. Can you blame them? The hero course that keeps pumping out pro-heroes was attacked. Jiro explained. Who knows what would have happened if the teachers hadn't come when they did? Siro sighed. Stop that, Siro. Just thinking about it's making me wet myself. Mineta exclaiming, jumping in his chair. Shut up. Be quiet, scum. Bakugo yelled back at him. Would you all stop talking for a second? The calmness and serious that came from caused the class to stay silent as the boy seemed to be in a foul mood. And why the hell should I listen to you, Deku? With one swift hand motion, Katsuki almost saw his life flags before his eyes as a fist was close to his face with sweat slightly pouring from his forehead. Test my patience and you will see. Everyone, morning homeroom is about to start. Stop talking and take your seats. Ida shouted at the front of the classroom. We're already in our seats. You're the only one who's not. Shiro commented. Ida sat down in his seat, shaking his fists in frustration. Shoot. Ida groaned. Don't worry about it. Ochako comforted him, focusing her attention towards Izuku. Ashido began leaning back in her chair until she leaned too much and Azui had to catch her, Ashido finishing. Gonna teach homeroom today? The door opened, Aizawa standing there wrapped in bandages from head to toe. Morning. Aizawa muttered through the bandages. Aizawa-sensei, you're back too soon, the class exclaimed. You're too much of a pro. Kaminari looked horrified while Kirishima approved. So you're all right, Aizawa-sensei? Ida raised his hand. Can you really call that all right? Ochako asked behind him. Forcing yourself to teach isn't logical, sensei, Izuku said with his glasses on as a warm aura surrounded him that made a few the students to sigh in relief. For now. My well-being doesn't matter. Aizawa answered, making his way to the podium, adding, more importantly, the fight is not over yet. Fight. Bakugo smirked. Don't tell me, Izuku muttered. The villains again? Mineta stressed. The UA Sports Festival is drawing near. Aizawa told them. That's a super normal school event. The class shouted. That's a super normal school event. Kirishima repeated, before getting cut off by Kaminari, putting his hand over his mouth. Wait a minute. Kaminari called. Is it okay to have a sports festival so soon after the villains snuck inside? Jiro asked. What if they attack us again or something? Ojiro added. The administration thinks this is a good way to show that the threat has been handled. That our school is safer than ever. Aizawa spoke. Plus, they're increasing security compared to past years. This event is a huge opportunity for all students at UA. It's not something we can cancel because of a failed villain attack. Why not? It's just the sports festival. Mineta looked worried at the thought of another potential villain attack. Mineta, Izuku turned to look at the boy that sat behind him. Don't you know how important the sports festival is? Of course I do. Mineta responded while small beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. I just don't want to get murdered. The UA Sports Festival is one of the most watched events in the country. Aizawa spoke a bit louder to end their conversation. When it comes to competition between future heroes, the UA Sports Festival is #1 in Japan for viewership. That's right, Momo agreed from her seat behind Mineta. Top heroes from all over the country will be watching. This is an event where you can get scouted. Yeah, unless you're dead. Mineta retorted, still looking uneasy about the event. She's got a point though, Kaminari piped up with a grin. After graduation, a lot of people join pro agencies as a sidekick. Yeah, but that's as far as some people ever go. Kyoka glanced at the blonde. They miss their chance to go independent and stay eternal sidekicks. Actually, that's probably where you're headed. You're kinda dumb sometimes. Oh. Kaminari practically pouted at the critique. It's true that getting scouted and joining a famous hero agency can get you more experience and even popularity. Aizawa admitted to the class of teens. That's why this festival matters. If you want to go pro one day, this event can open up doors for you. You get 1 chance a year, 3 chances in a lifetime. No aspiring hero can afford to miss this festival. Which means you can't slack off in your lessons or training. Am I clear? Yes, sir. The class chorused. Several hours later, after their modern literature class with Cementos, the bell rang to signal the students' lunch break. Class 1A were naturally still talking about the upcoming sports festival. Some were excited, others were nervous, some didn't seem to care much or were very good at hiding it. I am so pumped for this festival. Kirishima exclaimed, showing he was clearly part of the excited crowd. Heck yeah, if we put on a good show we're practically on the road to being pros. Shiro grinned at the redhead. He was also a part of the excited group. That's why we're all here in the first place, right? Sato grinned as he punched his right fist into his left palm. We get so few chances, so we have to make the most of this. Tokoyami agreed with the other guys. I'm kind of jealous, Shoji. Your quirk is so unique you'll definitely stand out. Kaminari sighed as he looked at the Dupliarm's user. Possibly, but what matters the most is to show the pros how useful I can be. Shoji replied as he waved off Kaminari's enviousness. Results were much better for getting scouted than just being noticeable. At least that was Shoji's take on the festival. No doubt you'll make a scene too. Kyoka snickered at Kaminari, reminding the electrification user of his dopey state. Kaminari grumbled at the ribbing. I like how excited they are. It proves that they'll give it their all since the festival is their first shot to get scouted. Izuku said while clenching his fist for a bit, but a sudden attack that wasn't lethal landed on his shoulders, which got him to chuckle as he looked and see the mischievous eyes of Ochako Uraraka. Let's do our best, Izuku, saying this with a smile on her face as Izuku grabbed her by waist and placed her on his lap that caused her to blush. Yes, let's do our best, he said with a smirk that it got Ochako to jump out of the boy's lap and resume her competitive nature. Everyone, I'm gonna do my best. Ochako threw her fist into the air. There seemed to be a pink aura of determination coming off of the girl. Yeah. Several students replied, throwing a fist into the air with the suddenly competitive brunette. I said I'm gonna do my best. Ochako threw her fist into the air a second time. Are you okay? Tsuyu questioned with her head tilted to the side. At lunch, we could see Mei and Izuku found a quiet spot out in the courtyard together. The couple had taken their meals from the cafeteria and sat in the shade of a tree. They sat almost shoulder to shoulder as they ate, occasionally sharing bites of food with each other. The two were so absorbed with each other they didn't notice that many of their peers were glancing at the adorable scene. Several of the upper-year girls were giggling or cooing at the couple. Quite a few other couples were doing much the same as Mei and Izuku on the lovely clear day. They're so adorable. A blue-haired girl commented to her friends as they sat a ways away from the first-year couple. Aren't they? So cute. Yes, now calm down and eat your lunch. A red-headed girl next to the brunette smiled. She was always so excitable. It was the cutest thing in the galaxy. I heard that the greenette was the one that fought the most during the USJ incident, a muscular, blonde teen mentioned after swallowing his food. He must be pretty strong. I can't imagine having to fight villains in the first month of being in high school. The navy-haired teen next to the blonde guy shook his head. I'd have panicked and frozen up completely. I already know it. He looked down at the blanket the four of them were sitting on. It almost seemed like a heavy, dark blue cloud had appeared over the teen's head. Hey now. The brunette girl practically sparkled as she spoke. None of that. You're a third year now, so you've already passed that point. Right? Right. Seriously, how can one of the top 3 in the school be such a downer on himself? The redhead questioned with a blink. Izuku could hear the conversation even though the third years were far away, but his main focus was on Mei, with the latter simply got closer to the boy as she gave him a gentle kiss that he accepted with grace as he wrapped his arms around her and gently laying his head atop hers. As the bell had just rung to signal the end of the day's last class. As Class 1A packed up their things over the next minutes, only a few noticed a muffled sound coming from the hallway outside. When Ochako opened the door to leave, she was met by a corridor full of other students. Why the heck are you all here? Ochako exclaimed, seeing the horde of students just staring at her and the rest of 1A through the open door. Do you all have some kind of business with our class? Ida questioned the large group. Why are you blocking our doorway? Are you trying to hold us hostage? Mineta demanded of the group. They're scouting out the competition, idiots. Bakugo sneered as he walked up to the door. We're the class that got attacked by real villains. They want to see us with their own eyes. A few students of Class 1A showed annoyance with Bakugo's normal abrasive attitude. Ochako frowned. Mineta pointed right at Bakugo while gaping at the rudeness. Izuku shook his head at the ash blonde. Well, at least now you all know what a future pro looks like. Bakugo stated straight to the faces of their fellow year mates. Now move it extras. Really? Izuku figured Bakugo's attitude was permanent nowadays. The explosion quirk user was always going to be like this. You can't just go around calling people extras, just because you don't know who they are, Bakugo. Ida admonished the red-eyed teen while chopping the air with his right arm. So this is Class 1A? A purple-haired male student questioned as he made his way through the crowd. I heard you guys survived a real villain attack. But you just sound like an butt. The teen stared Bakugo dead in the eye as he called him out and then continued as he finally got to the front of the crowd. Is everyone in the hero course delusional, or is it just you? Huh? Bakugo growled as a vein became visible on his forehead. Several of the 1A students were shaking their heads and trying to wave the new person off before he made Bakugo explode. How sad to come here and find a bunch of egomaniacs. The guy rubbed the back of his head, his wild, purple hair moving slightly from the motion. I wanted to be in the hero course, but like many others here I was forced to choose a different track. Such is life. Bakugo seemed to be getting angrier as the other teen continued to speak. I didn't cut it the first time around, but now I have another chance. If any of us do well in the sports festival, the teachers can decide to move us to the hero course. That means they'd have to transfer people out to make room. A few of the members of Class 1A stiffened up at that reminder. Tisk. Bakugo looked a few seconds away from snapping entirely. Scouting the competition? Maybe some of my peers are, but I'm here to let you know that if you don't bring your very best, I'll steal your spot right from under you. Consider this a declaration of war. The teen stated plainly and clearly. I didn't put in all the extra work both before and after the entrance exams to lose to anyone that's not serious about being a hero. Where'd this guy even come from? Was the thought running through most of Class 1A's minds. Hey, I'm from Class 1B. We heard you guys were attacked by some villains. I wanted to see what was up, but you're just a bunch of punks that think you're better than us. Another new guy yelled as he pushed his way forward. He had long, chin-length, messy gray hair and black eyes which were tilted slightly inwards. Each eye had very thick, jagged, tan-colored eyelashes that almost seemed to surround them when the teen's eyes were opened. He didn't appear to have any noticeable eyebrows, though, much like Kirishima, he had sharp, pointed teeth. In it, everyone is going to hate our class now. Several of the Class 1A students screamed internally. That's a rather brash claim to make, isn't it? Izuku stepped forward. When did any of us say we thought we were better than you, exactly? He continues as he felt a bit of heat covering him even though he was wearing the glasses on his face. Huh. The silver-haired loudmouth looked at Izuku blankly. You said we all thought we were better than your class, right? Izuku looked the other teen dead in the eye as he spoke. I'm curious as to how you came to that conclusion, considering none of us has said anything except for Bakugo being his normal, abrasive self. The other teen fumbled a bit, kicking up whispers and muttering from the crowd. The purple-haired teen that declared war was looking at Izuku with a raised eyebrow. You jumped to conclusions and made up your own mind. Ochako spoke for the Class 1B student as she said this while standing close to Izuku. The other teen looked sheepish as he rubbed the back of his head. Look, that was my bad. I'm sorry I jumped to conclusions. I'm Tetsu from Class 1B. I wanted to come see Class 1A, but I lost my cool after hearing the blonde guy run his mouth. It's fine. Bakugo has a way of pissing off everyone around him when he opens his mouth. Ochako chuckled mirthlessly. F off. Bakugo shouted back as he stomped off through the crowd. Oh no, I made him upset. Ochako overacted, badly, like she cared, and Izuku placed his hand on her head to calm her down. Huh, so maybe you aren't all full of yourselves after all. The purple-haired guy spoke up with a sigh. But my declaration of war still stands. I will get into the hero course. One of those 40 seats is going to be mine by the festival's end. With that he turned and walked away, and the crowd of students began to disperse. Well, that was different. The one who mentioned this was Ishido, and the tension in Class 1A began to fade away as the students picked up their bags and left the room to head home. Izuku was silent during the walk as this got Mei to stretch his face a bit to get his attention. What's on your mind? Mei said with Izuku rubbing where his face was pinched. I'm so looking forward to the competition. Just thinking about it has my blood royally boiling with excitement. As Izuku said that, his eyes shined. The next 2 weeks were spent taking every opportunity to train for almost every student that was in the hero course or wanted to get into said course. The school's gym and track facilities saw a sharp uptick in use, though this happened every year around this time, so the teachers all got a chuckle out of it. Except Aizawa, who just rolled his eyes as best as he could while having difficulties to drink his coffee, which didn't go unnoticed by the chuckling of his colleagues. Beginning of the sports festival. Man, I really wanted to wear my costume, Mina complained as the whole class was in their designated waiting room. Everyone was wearing the standard UA gym uniform for the festival. It's to keep things fair, Mina, Momo reminded the Pinkette. The other classes don't have costumes, so gym uniforms level the playing field, so to speak, not counting each individual's advantage from their quirk. I wonder what the first round is going to be this year? Sato pondered aloud as he distracted himself so that nerves wouldn't build up. The anticipation of not knowing is the worst. It doesn't matter what comes. We must face down whatever the organizers have set up to challenge us. Tokoyami replied with his eyes closed and arms crossed. He's right, we have to show that we can handle whatever comes our way like real heroes. Shoji agreed with Tokoyami as he sat at one of the tables. Is everybody ready? We'll be entering the stadium soon. Ida announced as he watched the clock. One by one the class stood up and prepared to head out to the field. It was time to prove their worth as future heroes. However, Todoroki approached Izuku, who was quietly talking with Ochako, with the girl lightly punching the boy. Midoriya. The red and white-haired teen spoke up. Izuku turned to look at his classmate while everyone else watched the two most powerful students in their class talk. What's up, Todoroki? Izuku questioned as he looked at the ice and fire user. Looking at things objectively, you and I are the strongest people in this room, right now. You are probably a bit stronger than me, Todoroki stated bluntly, not caring about the rest of the class clearly hearing their conversation. Bakugo bristled at the slight and looked half a second away from yelling at Todoroki. What about it? Izuku quirked his eyebrow at the other teen's words. Regardless of your power, Todoroki continued to stare at Izuku. I am going to beat you. Everyone else in the room was rather shocked at the bold statement, particularly when it came so suddenly from one of the quietest members of their class. Didn't see this coming at all. Kaminari blinked, looking back and forth between Izuku and Todoroki. Some of the other students looked uneasy at this sudden declaration. Hey, why are you trying to pick a fight now of all times? We're about to begin the festival. Kirishima tried to ease the tension that was building in the room. I welcome the competition, Todoroki. Izuku grinned at the two-toned boy. But you seem to be forgetting that you have far more competition than just me. If you let your focus rest solely on me, any one of them could pass you by in this festival. Every student in the room perked up at this indirect pep talk from the strongest member of their class. Except Bakugo, that just quietly muttered about murdering them all in the festival and winning the whole thing. Mineta, who was the closest to the explosion quirk user, slid away from him quickly. That response was so manly, Midoriya. Kirishima fist pumped excitedly. There was a wide smile on his face. It's time to go. Everyone, let's make our way to the field in an orderly fashion. Ida declared as he marched to the door and left the room. He's always so stiff. Mina laughed brightly and the remaining tension in the room vanished. Present Mike shouted from the booth, causing the crowd to cheer loudly. Make some noise, sports fans. Get those cameras prepped, media hordes. This year we're bringing you some of the hottest performances in sports festival history, guaranteed. I've only got one question before we start this show. Are you ready? Let me hear you make some noise as our students make their way to the big stage. How did I get roped into this? Aizawa grumbled from his seat next to Present Mike. Time to welcome our students to the field. Mike announced loudly as the first years began to emerge from the tunnel and onto the field. Going in alphabetical order, we start with our two hero course classes. Give it up for Class 1A and Class 1B. The crowd exploded into cheers as Class 1A appeared along with Class 1B. After the news of the attack on the USJ broke, people had wondered how an attack by so many villains had been stopped by only 2 teachers and a single student. If the rumors were to be believed, of course. Then, this place is completely packed. Zero mentioned at seeing the massive crowd and all of the cameras flashing. Next up we have the students that keep UA High as one of the top 3 academic scoring high schools in Japan every year. There are general studies classes 1C, 1D and 1E. Look out hero course. Some of them are looking to take your place in one of those 40 seats. Present Mike hyped up the ground while praising the general studies students for their hard work. Izuku briefly noticed a few of the students start walking a bit taller at the pro's words. Some of our hero course students could learn a thing or two about grades from them. Aizawa spoke and a few of the hero course students from both classes flinched slightly. Now we have our talented students that produce the gear that gets things done. Support course classes 1F, 1G and 1H. Make some noise. Mike shouted as the support course students, some of them with their own self-made gear on, walked onto the field. Anyone that wants to go pro needs to make connections with support gear designers. Quality gear can be the deciding factor in the field. Aizawa remarked and several of the support course students grinned with a specific one smirking towards Izuku. And last, but certainly not least, the ones who learn the ins and outs of our economy and how to market the heroes and their causes. Business course classes 1I, 1J, and 1K. If you want to be an independent pro, you better make some friends here, hero course students. Present Mike declared loudly as the crowd's energy kept building. The business course students smiled and chuckled at the pro's statements. He wasn't wrong though. Any pro that hoped to go independent in the mainstream of the hero industry better have some good marketing and representation. Many pros that became so-called eternal sidekicks did so because they failed to cultivate good working relationships with representation firms. That was actually a pretty fair introduction for all courses. A brunette girl from the general studies course mentioned just loud enough for Izuku to catch. With all of the first years gathered in the middle of the field, a loud crack caught their attention. From up on the stage appeared Midnight in all her voluptuous glory. Almost every man in the audience grinned or smiled at the appealing pro. It's time for the opening speech. Midnight announced into the microphone with a grin. Please welcome this year's chief umpire for the first-year tournament, the R-rated hero, Midnight. Present Mike presented to the cheers of the crowd, especially the male section. What about the principal? One of the attendees asked another. He's always at the third-year stage every year. The guy next to him answered back, not taking his eyes off Midnight. Someone might want to talk to Miss Midnight about what she's wearing. Kirishima mentioned with his cheeks slightly red. Yeah, that costume should definitely come with a warning label. Kaminari agreed even though he hadn't taken his eye off the pro since she appeared. Teenage hormones were a powerful thing. Is that really appropriate apparel for a high school sports festival? Tokoyami questioned as the pro prepared to start the festival properly. A few of Class 1A noticed Mineta giving a very enthusiastic thumbs up. He was also staring hard at Midnight as if trying to grope her with his eyes. Silence, everyone! Midnight yelled, whipping the air to get everyone's attention. For the student pledge we have Midoriya Izuku of Class 1A. Every eye turned to the greenette teenager. Izuku knew this was because he had scored the highest during the entrance exam. So this was at least expected. This got him a nudge from Ochako as he gave the girl a smirk as he walked towards the stage. He heard the murmuring of the crowd. As he headed to the microphone, Midnight gave him a gentle nod of support with a slight wink that got him to shake his head with slight chuckle that escaped from his lips. I'm pleased to be representing my fellow first-year students. Izuku gave a nod to the crowd of students on the field. I know that some of you aren't really into this event, while others of you are gunning for one of the 40 seats in the hero course. To both groups I say this, let's have some fun. But to those that are after one of our seats, a different message. Bring your best. We earned our seats in the entrance exam. If you wish to take them from us, then earn your seat here and now at the sports festival. We all welcome the competition. Let's all push each other higher towards our goal of being heroes. The crowd exploded into raucous applause at the short speech. Cheering and cries of motivation rang out from the crowd. Midnight squealed and hugged herself from the youthful passion, as she called it. Even all of the first-year students began to clap for Izuku's words. With a short bow, Izuku walked back down the stairs towards his class and his girlfriend. What a pledge! If that hasn't roused your spirit and fired you up, you must already be dead. Present mic blasted out through the speakers. With that awesome pledge and the spirit of competition blazing, let's reveal our first event for this year's sports festival. Get your foot off the desk. Aizawa's voice was barely heard as the crowd continued to roar and cheer. Time to find out the first game of the festival. Midnight cried out as a display lit up behind her and began spinning through options. This is when our students start experiencing the pressure for the first time. This year's first event is. The display stopped on the words, obstacle race. An obstacle race. Midnight cracked her WHP while giving a somewhat sadistic smile. Here we go. Present Mike yelled loudly while all the students looked on at their first event. Now the sports festival was ready to get heated. An obstacle race? The first-year students chorused as they looked at the display screen. The course will be one full lap around the stadium. The total length is 4 kilometers. As you all know, UA High's selling point is freedom. Midnight gave a sadistic look as she liked her lips. There are only 2 rules. First, you have to run the entire course. No shortcuts or you'll be disqualified. The pro cracked her WHP towards the first years. The second rule, no attacking other students. Messing with the field to your advantage is fine, direct attacks are not. Other than that, everything goes. You know the rules now, little listeners. Play fair and get back here first to be the winner. Break either of the 2 rules and you're out of the festival completely. Present Mike called out through the stadium speakers. Now then, take your places, everyone. Midnight yelled, making the crowd cheer as the first event was about to begin. The students began to move to the tunnel that marked the starting line. Izuku simply lets out a sigh as he felt the heat of sun surrounding his body as he briefly glanced around at the rest of the students. The Hero Corps students all looked determined and prepared. The reminder that their seats were up for grabs seemed to have lit a fire in the 40 students. He saw the same determination in a few other students from different courses. The one with the most profound look was the purple-haired teen that had made the declaration of war against Class 1A, along with May, who gave the green-haired boy a competitive smile which he gave back. The countdown to begin started as the first of 3 lights, a red light, went out. I wonder what the prize is for winning this race. Izuku mused briefly. It wouldn't be out of character for the sports festival for the winner of the first event to be given something for the next round. Or would the prize actually be a detriment? He wouldn't put it past UA to make success another trial. The second light, yellow this time, went out. No time to wonder about it now, I'll just do my best. Izuku grinned as he felt more powerful. Even with more people around, I will win. He said this as if he already won this race, which was true. Body bulked up and heat began radiating from his form. The final light, a green light, flashed on. Start! Both Midnight and Mike yelled at the same time. In an instant, every student rushed forward. Izuku took a single leap and cleared the entire crowd faster than most could notice. Okay, let's check out the action. Are you ready to give commentary, Eraser? Present Mike asked Aizawa. I'm still not sure why I had to be up here in the first place. Aizawa drawled out. We'll get started right away, Eraser. What should the crowd pay attention to in the first few minutes of the race? Mike continued as if Aizawa hadn't lamented being there. The moves made right in this opening section will be important. Aizawa commented as he watched all of the first years rush into the narrow tunnel. Inside the tunnel, yelling and shouting began as the participants were squeezed together. Trying to run through the tunnel at the same time was proving impossible. It was far too narrow for all of them to pass through at once, and many realized that it had been designed this way on purpose. This was clearly a test of ingenuity to see how they'd get through and take a lead in the race. A sudden drop in temperature made the majority of the students start shivering. The floor was covered in a sheet of ice and most of the first year's shoes froze over, sticking them in place. Several dozen calls of alarm, or outright accusations of cheating, rang out as Todoroki ran past the immobilized students. "Sorry, but I have to win this race," Todoroki stated while leaving a trail of ice right behind him. It would make it hard for those that freed themselves to walk, much less run, to try and catch up. "Like hell, icy hot." Bakugo roared as he was already in the air with his explosions firing to keep him airborne. "Nice try, Todoroki," Kirishima yelled out as he leapt forward in a long jump to clear the spreading ice before it could entrap him. "That was naive, Todoroki," Momo commented as she produced a long pole from her palm and used it to vault herself over the ice trap. "Excuse me, sorry, coming through." The purple-haired teen made multiple apologies as he practically parkoured over other students to avoid the ice. Many of said students were already trapped by the spreading frost, and he wasn't going to be one of them. Literally using the trapped students as stepping stones wasn't his original plan, but it wasn't as if the bicolored teen had given anybody much time to think. "Your ice can't stop my sparkle," Aoyama stated while firing his laser and being carried through the air by the force his unique energy generated. "Hey, that was close," Mina shouted as her special shoes secreted her acid onto the ice. The liquid dissolved the ice and made small, clear patches on the track where Mina stepped. "I'm so glad I practiced this." Ochako floated above the track, her weightless form moving quickly through the air from her initial kickoff. Her stomach was already starting to feel bad though, so she'd have to land soon. "Not a fan of the cold," Tsuyu stated as she was almost beside Ochako in the air. Her frog form Quirk had easily let her leap out of the tunnel entirely. "You think you can get ahead of me, you half-and-half beastie?" Bakugo yelled as he set off stronger explosions to increase his speed. "More people dodged that than I expected," Todoroki noted as he continued to run. The hybrid Quirk user refocused on the track ahead of him before blinking in shock. Izuku had already left the tunnel entirely by the time Todoroki had sprung his trap. He'd landed and started running by the time that the first students had even made it to the end of the frosted tunnel. The Verdette's enhanced physicality had not only put him in the lead, it was making the gap wider by the second. When did he? Todoroki tried to recall when Izuku had gotten ahead of everyone. "I didn't even see him pass me." "Yeah. It seems like Midoriya is already in the lead." He launched himself ahead before Todoroki's ice trap even struck the tunnel. "Talk about leg strength," Mike announced as all eyes moved to the monitor as it focused on Izuku leading the pack by a significant margin. "That's what happens when you don't hesitate," Aizawa spoke up. Midoriya determined the best course of action to escape the tunnel was not to run through it, but to use his enhanced strength to make a single leap and clear it entirely. He approved of the quick and rational actions of his student. "You think you're so cool, but I've outsmarted you," Mineta called out, bouncing over the ice while using his quirk to make stepping stones. "How pathetic, Todoroki," the purple-headed boy taunted as he took a weird pose. "Take this. My special attack. Grape." He was cut off as a large metallic fist slammed into him from the side and sent the pervert of Class 1A bouncing along the ground. Target acquired. The mechanical voices of dozens and dozens of robots rang out as a horde of one-pointers from the entrance exam tore through the walls that had been set up to outline the track. With a rumble and huge plumes of dirt and dust, 8 zero-pointers rose from their hiding places among the forests surrounding the track. "Ooh, enemies have shown up out of nowhere. We're in for a treat here. It's a test of strength and cunning, the Robo Inferno," Present Mike announced while the robots locked onto the students. Those the zero-pointers from the exam. Kaminari skidded to a halt, along with the majority of the first years. "The hero course had to fight those?" Someone questioned from the crowd of students. "This is what they meant by obstacles?" Another student demanded as they stared up at the towering robots. "There's too many. We can't get through." A different student cried out at what they perceived to be an impassable barrier. "So, this is what the other students faced in their entrance exams?" Todoroki commented as he sized up the massive machines. "Where did the school even get the funding for these things?" Momo wondered as she, Ochako, and Kyoka looked at all the robots. Before anyone could make a move, Izuku, who had barely slowed down, dealt the first blow to the Robo-Inferno. A massive bang went off and one of the 8 zero-pointers rocked backwards from the impact of Izuku launching himself at it. The Verdette had shoulder-tackled the mechanical behemoth and sent it reeling. The massive tank treads came up off the ground from the force of the blow. "Begone!" Izuku stated firmly as both of his hands rested against the robot's metal torso. The metal below him turned red as heat spread through it. The heat radiated outward, forming rings of increasing temperature as Izuku funneled the heat within him into the metal. The center went from dull red, to bright red, to dull orange, to yellow, to bright yellow, and finally turned bright white as it completely liquefied. The fallen zero-pointer was bisected via melting in front of everyone watching the sports festival. "Whoa yeah!" Mike screamed into the microphone. Barely even slowing down, Midoriya destroys a zero-pointer near instantly. What a display of power and control! Present Mike exclaimed loudly. With the obstacle cleared, Midoriya is back on the move, increasing his lead. Many of the watching pro heroes shifted their eyes to Izuku with interest. It wasn't every day that you saw a student like him. "I won't let you beat me," Todoroki promised as frost started to accumulate in his right hand and spread across the ground. "They obviously went through a lot of trouble, but I wish they'd have prepared something a little more difficult. Especially since dear old dad is watching," he stated with a mocking tone at the end. The ground froze in a large area surrounding Todoroki and he swiped his right arm upwards, sending a blast of ice and frost at 3 of the remaining zero-pointers just as the massive machines began their attack. The robots stood no chance as the ice encased their metal bodies and they froze over. With an exhale of frosted breath, he ran between the frozen behemoth's legs as he chased after Izuku. "Look, he stopped them," a student called out. "We can get through between the legs." Another claimed loudly. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," Todoroki warned the group at large. "I froze them while they were off balance," he informed in a monotone as the 3 zero-pointers started to tilt over. The majority of the students ran backwards to clear the area as the frozen giants slammed into the ground. "On purpose." His final words to the rest of the students went unheard in the racket as he rushed ahead. Todoroki from Class 1A attacks and defeats multiple zero-pointers in one hit. Then he traps his competitors behind a wall of frozen metal with all the other robots. He's definitely one to watch. It almost seems unfair. Mike roared as he stood up from his seat at another display of incredible power from the first-year students. His attack was both offensive and defensive. He made a rational and strategic move to ensure his own progress. Aizawa commented as he watched Todoroki chase after Izuku. "That's to be expected of a student who got in through recommendation. He's never even fought those robots before." The Robo-Inferno was extinguished by his chart-topping moves. Mike was almost hopping up and down as he commentated. "Like hell I'm letting Icy Hot and Deku surpass me." Bakugo yelled as he launched himself over the remaining zero-pointers with his explosions. Bakugo, also from Class 1A, clearly does not intend to throw in the towel. Instead of trying to go around, he goes overhead. "Clever," Mike called out as more and more students started making their way through. As expected, 1A and 1B are the fastest to make it through the first obstacle. Snipe noted from the teacher's booth. The other students aren't bad either. Especially the ones from General Studies who have a chance to get into the hero course. Toshinori mentioned as he watched the race. But there's a clear difference in training. The hero courses aren't given any time to just stand around. Aizawa stated as the students of Class 1A and Class 1B tore apart any robot that stood in their way. Momo created a fully functional cannon and blasted a zero-pointer's head into scrap with a well-placed shot. Mina dissolved the head of any robot that got near her. Kaminari simply had to touch them and release his quirk for a second or two to fry the robots. Ida could simply kick most of them aside without much trouble. Kyuka could destroy 2 robots at the same time with her jacks and the immense vibrations they sent into the robots. Siro and Tokoyami used their quirks to follow Bakugo's lead and go up and over the zero-pointers. During the entrance exam, they were seen as enemies to be avoided. If you see them as opponents to be defeated, then they're just large, slow hunks of metal. They're easy to deal with if you make smart shots. Snipe commented as he watched even the 0-pointers fall to the students. For those of you who thought the first obstacle was easy, let's see how you feel about the second one. Present Mike held his right hand to his head with a wide grin on his face. The next obstacle seemed to be a bottomless pit. Tall stone platforms were spaced out across the large canyon, but the platforms were so far apart from each other that only a select few Quirks would have any hope of jumping between them. In between the platforms were long, thick ropes that moved slightly in the breeze. They weren't even close to approaching stable footing. If they take a spill, they're out. If they want to pass this test, they'll have to get creative. It's the fall, Mike announced as Izuku finished looking over the massive chasm and the tons of rocky platforms that span the width of the obstacle. I can handle this, Izuku stated as he was fueled with boundless confidence. Crouching down, Izuku used his enhanced strength to launch himself forward. The arc of his leap would have brought him down somewhere in the middle of the chasm. Flames erupted from Izuku's hands and feet, shocking the audience. With careful control, Izuku flew over the last half of the chasm and touched down on the other side. Incredible! Midoriya gets past the second obstacle as if it wasn't even there. This will surely increase his lead. Present Mike exclaimed while the crowd cheered as the rest of the students started to hit the edge of the second obstacle. You won't escape, Todoroki declared angrily as he blasted himself along a rope line with his ice, trying to catch up. Using this method, he was quickly across almost a dozen platforms and on the other side. Dimenu, Deku. Don't think for a second that I'm copying you, Bakugo screamed after Izuku's back. Powerful explosions lifted the ash blonde into the air, and with proper control Bakugo flew over the entire obstacle. Wow, that's almost unfair, Ochako commented as she watched Bakugo fly over the obstacle. Finally, this is my chance to show what I can do, Mei said as she lets out a snicker which made Ochako to sweat drop from the antics of the pink-haired girl with thick dreadlocks as she approached the edge as she was decked out in support gear from head to toe. Everyone, observe what my brilliant gadgets can do. These are my wire arrows and hover saws. Hatsum, for the love of God, don't overdo it, Ochako said, which made Mei to say not to worry about it. Hey, why'd you get to bring all of that stuff? Mina pointed at the decked-out girl. Hero Corps students get all kinds of special training. So to keep things fair and to give us a fighting chance, we can bring whatever gear we want. We just have to make it ourselves. The Pinkette grinned brightly at the two girls. Now watch and be amazed. With that, the support course student launched a cable across the chasm to a platform. Her boots activated and lifted her off the ground with powerful, concentrated fans. I hope all the support companies are watching. With that, she launched off the edge and swung through the chasm. When she reeled herself upwards with her wire, her boots kicked up their propulsion and rocketed her into the air. In one shot, the support course girl had crossed half the obstacle. We may be friends, but I won't lose, Ochako declared as she ran to one of the ropes and started to cross. That gear is just unfair, Mina huffed as she picked a rope and started crossing too. On the other side of the fall, Todoroki looked behind him to see Bakugo gaining ground. The ash blonde was cursing as he forced his quirk to keep going. His arms were starting to hurt and his palms felt numb, as if they were asleep. The kickback of his quirk was slowly building up. Is he still getting faster? Maybe he's a slow starter? Todoroki pondered as he increased his speed more. Dimenit, Bakugo growled, noticing that Todoroki was picking up speed. You beasters keep looking down on me. The leading three are keeping their positions, while the rest of the pack remains mostly clumped together. The number of people that will make it through the first round hasn't been revealed, so no one can relax yet. Keep going, students, Mike encouraged the first years. Izuku had gotten to the final obstacle with his lead still intact. He continued to run even as he read the large sign. Danger Mines was on the large white sign in red. With a running start, Izuku only smirked as he could feel the heat of sun radiating through him as it fueled his confidence and pride. With a powerful leap, Izuku cleared the entire length of the mine field. He didn't even have to use his flames. Landing threw up a cloud of dust, but in less than a second, Izuku was bolting down the track again towards the finish line. I couldn't even announce the final obstacle before Midoriya cleared it. Mike roared in excitement. He just cleared the minefield in a single running leap. What a student! Midoriya knows his limits fairly well. He was able to determine that he could make such a leap in seconds. Aizawa offered his own comments. That's the kind of knowledge that lets a pro operate in the field to their maximum ability. DMN. Todoroki ground his teeth a bit as he slowed and worked his way through the minefield. This sheet doesn't affect me, Bakugo declared with a slasher grin as he blasted himself into the air again. His arms were already sore, but the short rest he'd given his quirk between the fall and the minefield had helped a bit. Don't you dare think you can stay ahead of me, Deku. I can't waste time here. Todoroki decided, and a pillar of ice formed under his feet, launching him into the air. The bicolored team tucked and rolled when he landed and was back on his feet before the two mines he'd tripped could detonate. A large platform of ice formed under his feet and he blasted ahead, leaving a trail of nearly meter-tall ice behind him. He felt his body shiver as he pushed his quirk harder and harder to catch up with Bakugo and Izuku. Izuku continued to run. A glance behind him showed both Bakugo and Todoroki closing the gap as they used their quirks to the fullest. With a smirk, Izuku faced forward and went from running to full-on sprinting. The bulked-up verdette became a blur and kicked up a large cloud of dust behind him as he bolted into the stadium. He saw the finish line briefly but passed it and skidded to a stop dozens of meters away before the announcement of his win was blasted out through the speakers. Midoriya makes one last impressive dash as he wins the obstacle race. Mike yelled out as Todoroki and Bakugo crossed the finish line. To Bakugo's rage, the board showed Todoroki beating him by a fraction of a second. The ash-blonde growled, even as his hands shook and his arms had a sharp pain in them. Rainbow-colored confetti dropped as the crowd cheered furiously. Izuku raised his right fist in victory. With a proud grin, Izuku looked out over the cheering crowd. He knew many of them were pro-heroes, and he could hear and see their excitement and how impressed they were by his skill and power. He exhaled as he lowered his fist while placing his glasses on his face as he shrank down to his normal height and physique. The Midoriya home. Izuku. My baby. Inko was a fountain of happy tears. She was so proud of her Izuku for coming first place, but the amount of tears she was pouring out from her eyes was a bit concerning.